What are you doing with my daughter?
Is she okay?
Get out of here and don't come back!
You have a complete tear of the rotator cuff. It's not a small injury.
Hello, dear viewers. Today's story follows Huyen as she takes Dae to the hospital because he has been frequently unwell. Fortunately, the doctor confirms that Dae is only suffering from a mild cold and does not need to be hospitalized. Just when everything seems to be fine, the unexpected appearance of Mr. Dai creates a tense atmosphere. Using the excuse of visiting his granddaughter Maya, he hides a dark plan that Huyen and Dae are unaware of. Thanks to their constant vigilance and the fact that they never leave Maya's side, his plan temporarily fails. However, the danger has not truly passed, as Mr. Dai is still quietly waiting for another opportunity. If you want to follow the next developments of this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on notifications so you won't miss upcoming episodes. Your support is our greatest motivation to continue bringing you engaging and emotional stories. Thank you for watching. Huyen took Dae to the hospital early in the morning, when a thin layer of mist still covered the sky and the trees along the road were damp with the chill of dawn. She held his hand tightly, clearly feeling how thin and slightly trembling his fingers were. Lately, Dae had been falling ill more often, sometimes a dry cough that lingered for days, sometimes a mild fever at night, and on some days, dizziness and exhaustion right after meals, leaving him wanting to lie down and rest. Huyen had been so worried that she lost sleep night after night, her mind constantly filled with the fear that his health might be facing something serious. That was why, despite Dae insisting it was just a common cold, she firmly decided to take him to see a doctor for peace of mind. In the hospital waiting area, the sound of footsteps, the echo of numbers being called over the loudspeaker, and the familiar scent of disinfectant blended into an atmosphere that felt both tense and suffocating. Dae leaned back against the chair, his face pale, his eyes slightly sunken from lack of sleep. Sitting close beside him, Huyen adjusted his scarf, her movements careful, as if the slightest carelessness might make him fall even more ill. She kept reminding him, "When we see the doctor, tell them everything you've been feeling lately. Don't hide anything from me or from the doctor." Dae gave a weak smile and nodded to reassure her, though deep down he felt guilty for causing her so much worry. When it was their turn, the doctor asked Dae to come into the examination room. Huyen followed closely behind him, her eyes never leaving him. The doctor asked detailed questions about his condition, from when the fatigue had started, the accompanying symptoms, to his daily habits and diet. Dae answered honestly, including the nights he stayed up late working, the rushed meals, and how often he went out in the cold and rain. The doctor listened carefully, taking notes and occasionally nodding as if the picture was becoming clear. After checking his blood pressure, listening to his heart and lungs, and ordering a few basic tests, the doctor concluded that Dae was only suffering from a mild cold, caused by physical exhaustion and changes in the weather, nothing serious. Hearing that hospitalization was unnecessary and that all he needed was proper medication and sufficient rest, Huyen finally breathed a sigh of relief. The heavy weight that had pressed on her chest for days seemed to lift at last. She turned to look at Dae, her eyes filled with both reproach and affection. "See, I told you that you need to take better care of yourself," she said softly. Dae smiled, squeezed her hand tightly, and quietly promised that he would listen, that he would not make her worry like this again. The doctor gave a few more instructions on diet, emphasized the importance of keeping warm and avoiding overwork in the coming days, and then let them leave. Just as the two of them were stepping out of the examination room and were still trying to collect themselves, Huyen suddenly noticed a familiar figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was Mr. Dai. He approached them with a warm smile and said gently, "I heard that Day wasn't feeling well, so I happened to stop by to check on him. It's also been a while since I last saw Maya. I miss that little girl very much." His words sounded caring on the surface, yet Huyen paused slightly, an unexplainable sense of unease rising in her heart. Day greeted him politely, while Huyen simply nodded in response, her eyes fixed on his face, trying to read what lay behind that seemingly kind smile. Mr. Dai walked alongside the couple, continuously asking about Day's health and occasionally mentioning Maya with a tone full of affection, as if he were nothing more than a devoted grandfather missing his granddaughter. Huyen clutched her handbag tightly, her mind constantly reminding her to stay cautious. Although nothing had happened yet, a mother's instinct would not allow her to be completely at ease. Quietly, she tugged Day forward, quickening their pace slightly, as if eager to leave the unsettling atmosphere of the hospital and bring Maya back to a safe place, where their small family truly belonged. Beneath Mr. Dai's calm demeanor and gentle words lay a darkness no one could easily perceive. His visit to the hospital that day was never a coincidence, nor was it driven by genuine concern for Day's health or simple affection for Maya. Every step he took, every smile he wore, had been calculated in advance. For a long time, Mr. Dai had been quietly observing Huyen and Day's life, especially the way they protected Maya with unwavering devotion. The little girl had become the center of their world, a fragile light they guarded with everything they had. To Mr. Dai, however, Maya represented something entirely different, an obsession, a desire to possess, and a twisted sense of control that had grown stronger with time. As he walked beside them through the hospital corridor, Mr. Dai's eyes subtly scanned their surroundings. He took note of the security cameras, the nurses moving briskly from room to room, and the occasional families passing by. In his mind, he was already calculating distances, timing, and potential distractions. He imagined scenarios where he could separate Maya from Huyen for just a few moments, long enough for his plan to unfold. He had even convinced himself that what he intended to do was not wrong. In his distorted thinking, taking Maya away was an act of saving her, of raising her according to his own ideals, away from what he believed was a life of uncertainty. Yet reality did not unfold as smoothly as he had hoped. Huyen's presence was constant, her arms instinctively shielding Maya whenever Mr. Dai drew too close. Her eyes, though calm on the surface, never stopped watching him. Every subtle movement, every shift in his tone was quietly registered in her mind. Day, despite still feeling weak, remained alert, positioning himself between Maya and Mr. Dai whenever possible. Their unity formed an invisible barrier, one that Mr. Dai could feel but not break through. The hospital, crowded and unpredictable, was far from the ideal place to act. For the first time in a long while, hesitation crept into Mr. Dai's thoughts. He realized that any reckless move would immediately draw attention. A child crying, a sudden struggle, or even Huyen's raised voice would be enough to expose him. The consequences would be severe, and he knew it. With great effort, he forced himself to suppress the urge burning inside his chest. The plan he had nurtured for so long would have to wait. Instead, he adjusted his expression, softening his gaze and letting out a quiet sigh, as though he were merely a concerned elder disappointed that he could not spend more time with his granddaughter. "I'll visit Maya another day," he said lightly, his voice steady, almost sincere. "You two should focus on resting and taking care of your health." His words were perfectly chosen, kind, reasonable, and impossible to doubt. Huyen responded politely, but she did not relax. There was a tightness in her smile, a silent warning in her posture. She thanked him briefly and guided Day and Maya toward the exit, her steps quick and purposeful. Mr. Dai stood still for a moment, watching them leave, his face unreadable. As their figures disappeared from sight, the warmth drained from Mr. Dai's eyes. His lights reflected coldly off his glasses as his expression hardened. Though he had failed to act that day, his resolve had not weakened. If anything, the resistance he encountered only fueled his determination. He told himself that patience was the key. Opportunities, like fate, always revealed themselves to those willing to wait. Huyen and Day could not possibly guard Maya every second of every day. There would be moments of carelessness, moments of exhaustion, moments he could exploit. Later that evening, Mr. Dai sat alone, replaying every detail of the encounter in his mind. He remembered the way Huyen instinctively tightened her grip on Maya, the way Day subtly shifted his body to block him. These reactions confirmed what he already knew. Maya was deeply loved, deeply protected. But instead of discouraging him, this realization only intensified his obsession. He convinced himself that one day Maya would belong to him, that she would grow up under his roof, calling him the one who raised her. Meanwhile, unaware of the full extent of the danger they had narrowly avoided, Huyen and Day focused on returning to their normal lives. Yet the unease lingered in Huyen's heart like a shadow she could not shake. She held Maya closer that night, listening to the child's steady breathing, silently promising that no matter what happened, she would never let anyone take her away. Day, lying beside them, shared the same silent vow. Neither of them knew that somewhere in the darkness, Mr. Dai was already waiting, patiently, quietly, for another
Hello,
chance.
xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Live Single RV. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Trong câu chuyện hôm nay của chúng ta thì thật là may mắn khi đệ đi khám bệnh và đã được về sớm hơn so với dự định. Và đó chính là cơ hội để giúp anh và Huyền có cơ hội ngăn cản âm mưu của ông Đại, tức là bố chồng cũ của Huyền, đã có âm mưu là đến nhà Huyền và đệ nhân lúc Huyền và đệ không có nhà và đón bé Maya đi đưa về nhà ông để chăm sóc và nuôi nấng, nhưng điều đó không được sự cho phép của Huyền. Và thật may mắn khi đệ đã về kịp thời và ngăn cản điều này. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về câu chuyện của Huyền, Đệ và bé Maya sẽ còn được kể các video tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về câu chuyện sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều đã luôn theo dõi và ủng hộ kênh của mình. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn vào ngày mai. Bye bye.